Just imagine, it's 2025, and one of the most famous, most secure museums on the planet, the Louvre, becomes the scene of an absolutely stunning robbery. In just a handful of minutes, priceless national treasures just vanished.
But this wasn't just some simple break-in. In the aftermath, the French culture minister came out with this killer quote. It perfectly frames the heist not as some random act of genius, but as the totally predictable result of a deep, systemic failure. So, that gets us to the big question, right? How was this even possible? How does a small crew of thieves just waltz into a fortress of art and walk away with irreplaceable jewels in broad daylight? Well, let's break it all down. To really get the failure, we've got to understand the crime itself. It all went down on the morning of October 19, 2025. And get this, it was in that chaotic first 30 minutes right after the museum opened its doors to the public.
The speed is it's breathtaking. The museum opens at 9. By 9:30, the whole operation is kicking off, and before 9:38, they are gone. We're talking less than 8 minutes from start to finish. The security team barely had time to even realize what was happening.
Their plan? It was so audacious, but also incredibly simple. They just bypassed all the main entrances. They showed up disguised as workers, used a simple basket lift to get up to a second-story balcony, and from there, it was easy. They cut the glass, smashed 2 display cases, and then zipped off on scooters before anyone could really mount a response.
And what did they get for all that? Eight priceless pieces of the French crown jewels. And we're not just talking about valuable objects here. These are irreplaceable symbols of the nation's heritage. And this is the number that really just blows your mind. It took them less than 8 minutes to steal those 8 artifacts. That's about 1 minute per jewel. That level of efficiency? That's what made this whole thing so incredibly devastating. But here's the thing. The thieves' speed wasn't the only reason they succeeded. Their success was basically built on a foundation of long-standing problems inside the institution, a whole system of failures that made the impossible, well, possible.
The impact was just catastrophic on so many levels. I mean, yeah, the main damage was losing the heritage, of course, but the hit to the Louvre's reputation was massive, and it triggered this intense political firestorm that shut down its operations for days.
Okay, look at this, because this slide lays the whole problem bare. You had a security audit all the way back in 2014 that flagged obsolete systems and known vulnerabilities. Now fast forward to 2025. What did the thieves exploit? An unmonitored balcony and outdated surveillance. It's the exact kind of stuff that had been ignored because security funding kept getting pushed to the back burner. It's just a straight line from inaction to total disaster.
Catastrophes like this are just awful, but they also give us some really powerful lessons. The investigation basically created a clear blueprint for turning these failures into future strengths. So what are the big takeaways?
All right, lesson number 1 is almost painfully obvious now. Security can't just be about the front door. It has to be holistic. You've got to cover every single potential way in, from service windows to, you guessed it, external balconies.
And secondly, what's the point of a security audit if you don't actually act on what it finds? That 2014 report wasn't some crystal ball. It was a diagnostic tool. The failure wasn't in the analysis. It was in the complete lack of follow-through. An ignored warning is basically an open invitation.
And finally, security isn't just a bunch of separate parts. The physical barriers, the alarms, the cameras, the guards on the ground, they all have to work together as one seamless, integrated system. At the Louvre, they just weren't aligned, and that created the exact gap the thieves needed.
So, all these lessons led directly to a series of really concrete recommendations for protecting our shared heritage. It's essentially a blueprint for how to prevent this from ever happening again.
The blueprint itself is pretty clear and actionable. First, do comprehensive audits and, this is the key part, actually act on them. Put continuous surveillance on all vulnerable points, not just the obvious ones. Create extra barriers around your most high-value assets. And yeah, that means spending more money on security infrastructure. But it's not just about tech, it's about people. You've got to regularly test your response plans and build a culture where every single staff member feels like they're part of the security team.
The Louvre heist was a massive wake-up call, a painful reminder that even our greatest institutions are vulnerable. And it leaves us with this really critical question. In this constant cat-and-mouse game between protection and intrusion, is the whole idea of perfect security just a myth? And if it is, how do we ever hope to protect the irreplaceable?